We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. We are recording this on Sunday night, and it will air Tuesday morning. Yesterday, I had kind of a departure. I wasn't even sure if I was going to air it or not because it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but I did a live on my other Rational Boomer account on TikTok, Rational Boomer 2, TOO. I did it. I had every intention of having people on the show. But I found out that you've got to have 3 hours of doing lives before you can bring on guests. And on that account, this was my first live. So I had to go on for an hour, 20 minutes on my own. So for those of you who listen to it, I apologize because listen to me for an hour and 20 minutes solely. It's not fun for me. I don't know what it is like for the folks out there, but nonetheless, we're going to pick it up and pick up speed on this one because we have two known guests that we've had on the show before. We've got TJ, who's also a moderator of mine on TikTok, and Eric. It's been a while since we've talked to Eric on the show. TJ said, "I want to be on a show with Eric," and then Jay said, "I want to be on a show with Eric." No one says, "I want to be on a show with Mike." They want to be on a show with fucking Eric, for Christ's sake. So for Jace, if he's listening to this, I haven't forgot about it. I told Eric, and we'll set something up within the next week for Eric and Jace to be on. But TJ and Eric, thanks for joining us today on a Sunday night going into Monday morning. How are you guys doing after this weekend? Have you been able to let some of this stuff go and focus on, I don't know, living your life?
A little bit, but I do got to say that live that you did on your other account, I was busy on that. I was busy, Rebecca was busy, and JD and probably Will too. We were pretty busy on that whole live.
There were a lot of Trumplefucks out there. I'd see them come across and I'd go to try to block them and they were already blocked. So you
Yeah.
guys were busy as a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest.
Well,
Um,
I commented a couple times. It's like the old days, back when
yeah,
I first became a mod, it was like out of control. But what I think happened is we eventually blocked so many people that the algorithm figured it out, maybe. Because
that may be.
over the course of like I don't know how long it's been, at least a couple of years anyway. Uh, Over that time period, we blocked so many people that I think the algorithm figured out that not to send that into their feeds or whatever, which is better. But when you started
Yeah.
a new account, we're like at square one again. We're getting inundated by these idiots.
Yeah, it was weird. I should have looked into it deeper before I did it. But we talked about stuff. There was a lot of people asking questions, and it worked out fine. It worked out fine. And Eric, it's been a while since you've been on the show. I'm proud to announce that I just checked your account on TikTok. You do have 10,000 followers now. So now it's time to start cashing that TikTok fucking money.
Yep, I did hit 10,000 for apparently the second time because you messaged me last night said I hit 10,000 and I looked
Yeah.
and I was at 999. Apparently, I think one of the bots that was following me got banned or something, or they got tired of following me. One of the two.
Yeah. Well,
Then I lost another one.
did
I
you
was
lose
down to
another one?
998, and then all of a sudden, a couple hours ago, I looked and I was just at 10K. So
I just checked it. Yeah, I saw you were at 9999 and I'm already friended you from my main account and my second account. So there's nothing I could do. So I went and talked to my son. I said, follow an analytical Iowan. Get this fucker to 10,000. And he did. And I saw it change to 10,000. And then I texted you and you said, no, it's not. I'm one off. And I checked it again. I go, fuck. Is this TikTok dicking around with us? I don't know.
Well,
well,
if my brother's listening, follow Eric, Analytical Iowan.
Yeah,
yeah. But I
definitely.
did cross over a second time. Um, I'm guessing it was one of the bots. I try to block as many of them as I can, partially for that reason, as I wanted to get over 10K and have them all be, quality followers, as you say,
Right.
peers. I don't want to have all the bots. I really fight to block them. If I didn't care, I probably would be at 11 or 12,000 at least right now, but glad to be over the 10K mark. And now we'll see how TikTok does its thing.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to sign up for it and give them information and stuff. But Definitely do that. Might as well take whatever money they're going to give you. Um, since we're on the topic of TikTok, I heard something this weekend. We know that Congress said, "Look, you got to divest this company, or we're going to shut it down. We're going to ban it in this country." People took it to court, went all the way to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court upheld what Congress had done. Now, they gave them 90 days to divest, and of course, they didn't do it in those 90 days. Donald Trump becomes president and says, "I'll give you another 75." Now, he did an interview this weekend, and they were talking about TikTok, and they said, "Well, nobody's bought TikTok as yet. Are you willing to give them another 75 days?" Trump said, "Yeah, sure." I don't think TikTok's going to shut down as long as Donald Trump is president because he's got too many buddies in there making money off of TikTok, and there's no way to do that. But I want to point this at Eric. Eric, you've pointed this out before. By him extending it more than once, he's going against the law that Congress passed, right?
Yeah, he actually, both extensions technically are violations of the law. The law said 190-day extension. He did 75, which you could argue, well, he chose to go less. Okay, that might be okay. And now he's given a second extension. The law doesn't say anything about a second extension. He's effectively just telling the DOJ, do not enforce any of the penalties from this. So if at any point, Zuckerberg or one of the other social media gurus decide to get a wild hair and they want to go after TikTok, they could potentially take this to court, and the courts probably would have no choice but to enforce the ban because that 90-day window has passed. There's no mechanism for another extension. Congress has to do something. And Donald Trump just keeps kicking the can down the road, whether he's allowed to or not.
Isn't this the essence of Donald Trump saying, "Congress, fuck you, you have no power, I'm going to do what I want," and Supreme Court, "You have no power, I'm going to do whatever I want"? It seems like that, doesn't it, TJ?
Well, yeah, it does seem like that, but it's beyond just this whole TikTok issue. It's a bunch of things that are happening right now. But there might be other things, happening with this issue that we're not thinking about. Like maybe as a repercussion for tariffs, China says, "Fuck you, you don't get TikTok. We'll just turn it off." And that'll be it. Because
Well, I think they've said that. I think TikTok or China has said, "Listen, as long as these tariffs are going on, we don't even want to talk to you about TikTok."
right. So and they've been pretty clear about the fact that they don't want to sell it. So this might just be a reason for them to make a move on it and just say, "Hey, we're just going to shut it down, and that's going to be the end of it."
Well, and now that Eric has finally hit that 10,000 point, this would be the time it would be shut down
Yep,
with Eric's luck.
100%. That is my luck.
Well, I don't know. There's so many other things going on. It's amazing how TikTok doesn't even really make the news normally. I mean, it was the biggest news around when it was happening the first time around, but I'm almost to the point. I don't want TikTok to be shut down. The whole concept is fucking ridiculous. We're worried about our security, and our Secretary of Defense is causing the greatest breach in American histories in terms of security ever. I don't know why we worried about TikTok if we're not worried about our own fucking government.
Yeah, why should we? I mean, if the national security advisor gets rewarded for fucking up our national security to the umpteenth level by, allowing people to be involved in classified information that shouldn't be. I mean, why should we? Why should we care about TikTok? It doesn't even make any sense at all. It's just pure and utter incompetence every day.
Well, it's funny, and I point this at Eric because I know Eric's got some insight on this. Mike Waltz, national security advisor, maybe one of the worst national security advisors in history. He's the one that brought the journalist into that Signalgate thing. He looked like a fool. Donald Trump wanted to misdirect or take the attention off of him. So they caused him to resign. But then he says, "Well, I'm going to nominate him to be the ambassador to the UN." And JD Vance tried to say that was a promotion. That is in no way a promotion. That is a demotion. Um, but Donald Trump must not have been thinking too hard about this, because there are some inherent problems with nominating Mike Waltz to the ambassadorship of the UN, and I bet Eric can tell us why that's a problem for Donald Trump.
Ambassadors need Senate confirmation, and there will be
Mm-hmm.
hearings, and Democrats are going to roll with it. They're going to be asking him all of the hard questions any chance they get. Now, of course, some of it's going to be held behind closed doors so the Republicans can try to mitigate the damage and they can, control the sound bites. But Democrats are going to be pulling them in and say, hey, what happened here? Who was involved? Who started it? Did Trump know? And there's going to at least have to be some accountability for any of it. And Donald Trump isn't going to want that. He may end up having to backtrack this nomination before it actually gets to the confirmation stage.
Well, see, that's the thing about Donald Trump, and he does this all the time. There's some scandal, and then we get interested in other things, and it kind of fades away, which is what Donald Trump would like to do, have these scandals just fade away and have us focused on something else. But to me, to make this move, it's like, okay, that scandal's been buried under other scandals. And now, if we have to have the confirmation hearings, it's bringing that old scandal back up like a fever blister, and presenting it to the country again and making it a topic in the news. That's just stupid.
Well, yeah, it is stupid, but I could honestly see Donald Trump not thinking about it and letting it go, because for now, no one's talking about Signalgate really. So it'll go away. Then the confirmation hearing will happen. And then, sure, they'll be talking about Signalgate again. But then what won't they be talking about at that point? What other fuck up are they going to bury? Then he can he can say, well, you know what? I'm going to withdraw his nomination. You know what? There's too much here. And then he can look like some big hero, or at least think he looks like the hero for, oh, I didn't know all of that. So I'm going to back off that nomination. And then he's buried 2 or 3 stories by doing this fuck up. He's just trying to do damage control. It's not a master plan. He's not brilliant.
Well, doesn't he just look stupid for doing that? I mean, any normal thinking person would be like, why would you take someone that committed this act and then, say, oh, he's leaving, which, he's fired, really is what it is. And then they're going to make him the ambassador to the UN. I mean, that because what they're doing effectively is they wanted Signalgate to go away so badly, right? But now they're just going to bring it back up into the news again. And it's going to be a big ordeal. They're going to look more stupid doing that than just saying, hey, he's fired for messing up, and we just walk away. Well, it's worse.
Here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Here's the thing I don't understand is that Donald Trump is an idiot. I could see Donald Trump doing this.
Right.
Is there nobody around Donald Trump with above average intelligence that said, hey, Donnie, consider this? Apparently there's not.
No, I guess not.
No, there's not, because all of the qualified people left in the first administration.
Right.
They all were against him. He doesn't have the smart people around him to tell him, hey, you're fucking up. And he wouldn't listen. And the other thing is, he won't keep those people around. He wants what he has. He wants yes men.
Right.
He wants someone to tell him he's brilliant, pat him on the back and say, you look like a winner if you do this. And then he does it. That's what he wants.
Right.
Yeah.
He needs.
Go ahead.
Oh, he just needs to surround himself with very smart economists like Ron Vera, all these
the mystical, magical Ron Vera who doesn't exist.
Right, exactly.
Well, so now we don't have a national security advisor. We have 0 national security advisor. But there's some scuttlebutt. There's some talk about who may take that position. Have you guys heard this?
I have not.
Have you?
Well, what I heard was it was Marco Rubio in the interim, but I haven't heard who the actual nominee is going to be long term.
You're going to love this. You're going to love this. Marco Rubio is the interim. He's got like 4 side gigs along with being Secretary of State. Apparently, Donald Trump is riding out of the best people to hire. But the person that people have been talking about, I don't know if it's legit or not, but it's Donald Trump, so who knows? They're talking about Stephen Miller.
Oh
How you
my
like them
God.
apples?
Oh
Jesus
my
Christ.
God. Man, that's setting the bar low. I mean,
They've been
Low.
doing.
it doesn't get any lower than that. How could it be worse?
Marjorie
They,
Taylor Greene, maybe.
Okay, maybe that's worse, but not by much.
they've
Lauren
been doing some.
Boebert.
Yeah, that would be really low. They've been doing some deep dives on Stephen Miller going back to his high school and college days. And
Yeah.
there's a common thread with everybody who talks about Stephen Miller. He's a horrible, creepy person. Not something we didn't already know, but it's nice to be validated by the people who've known him from the past.
Oh yeah, I saw some of those videos of when he was younger, and he was exactly that. He was a creepo, you know. But
I'm
it
I'm not
squares though.
surprised.
It squares with the people that he picks. You know, Pete
Yeah,
Hegseth, he's a creep. You know, he's a woman abuser. I mean, Miller fits right in with him.
he
Yep.
does. He does. Well,
We
I mean, he's as creepy as Donnie is anyway.
Right.
I mean, why not just put the bar even lower? Why not go for Steve Bannon?
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
He fits
Yeah.
in just as well.
I
yeah.
think Bannon's smarter than Miller though. I that I will give.
Oh, oh,
I I think Steve Bannon is on the outs with the White House. I mean, they're maybe friendly, but we're not going to see him coming back into the White House again. And I think that's the way Bannon wants it because Bannon is as creepy and as grimy and as greasy as he is. He's smart enough to know what's going on. He saw
Right.
what Elon Musk was doing and how it was negative. He's seeing what tariffs are going to do to Donald Trump. He still supports Donald Trump, but he's smart enough to take enough distance from
Mm.
Donald Trump so he doesn't get caught up in the avalanche of shit that goes over the cliff eventually.
Well, he probably doesn't want to go to jail again. That's probably a big motivator, you know, because I have a
oh.
feeling that once this is over, there's a lot of motherfuckers that are going to be going to jail.
Did
Oh
he?
yeah, no question. No question.
Well, I know Bannon went to jail once because of Donald Trump, but wasn't Bannon in when Donald Trump was president, or was that just right after?
When did he
It
get
was
out?
he got out just a week or so before the election, which was
Yeah.
pissing him off. But now he's got another court case, where he robbed all the Trump-fucks of their money when he had the build the wall
Yeah.
foundation or something. And then
Right.
all that money ended up in his pocket. As far as I know, he still has to go to court for that, and he could be put in jail for
Yeah.
that unless Donald Trump pardons him. Donald Trump
There's
had
no pardon for
another.
that.
Oh, there's no pardon?
Those are state charges.
Ooh.
I'm pretty sure those are state of New York charges.
They
Well,
could
Steve
be. They could be.
I think you're right about that. Then Donald Trump, always looking to do something to catch the attention or catch uh, the news cycle. He said that I'm thinking of well, he did contact the Bureau of Prisons and said, listen,
Ugh.
we need to reopen Alcatraz. We got to have some place to put all these vicious criminals. Now, I don't know if he understands that Alcatraz has been closed since 1963. 62 years it's been closed. I took a tour of Alcatraz with my family one time. Cool place, but the fucker's falling apart.
Mhm.
I don't know what it's going to cost to fix that up. And he said he'd like to expand it. Hey, Donnie, it's on an island. You only got so much room to fucking expand.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. And more or less, all the mechanical systems of that building have been shut down for what, 60 years?
Yeah.
So they're utterly destroyed. I mean, it may have some areas that have some heat, but the water has been turned off for six. They don't just stop using a building and leave all the mechanicals functioning like the water, because what eventually happens is they start getting leaks, and then there's flooding and things like that. So more or less, the plumbing is probably destroyed. The HVAC mechanical is no good. There could be structural damage from the roof leaking. The the structural integrity may not be that great anymore. But just based upon that and the fact that it only holds like 1,500 prisoners at best, right? You would have to invest probably like 60 million bucks, maybe in that area,
that,
60 to 100 million bucks to try to get that thing, back up to where it needs to be to operate and function correctly. I mean, that's you could build a new prison for less money.
He just says stuff like that because he thinks it makes him sound tough. Oh, Donald Trump's going to be tough. He's going to open up Alcatraz, the toughest prison in the world. He doesn't think about what he says. He just pulls something out of his ass, throws shit against the wall, and hope to God it impresses people. But these kind of comments end up making him look just like an idiot. And even people who supported him have got to go, the fuck is that?
Well, it makes me think that it's dementia. I mean, that's just silly. It's a museum. It's not functional in any way, shape, or form. There's nothing tough about it. I mean, it's just a stupid notion that not any normal person or that thinks normally would say that's a good idea. When you could build something new wherever, for less money, and this doesn't even make any sense. It's just him trying to think that he had some kind of genius idea, or it's his dementia showing. I don't know which of the two it is.
Bit of both.
Yeah, or both.
With the cost and everything, you could easily build a much better, more modern prison that holds way more people and do all of it. But again, it's the imagery of the Rock of Alcatraz being out there in the middle of nowhere, etc. But beyond that, we're going to now hear it for the next 4 years. Even if it's completely impossible, his supporters are going to say, oh, just wait, Donald Trump's going to reopen Alcatraz. It's a good idea. It's coming. And we're going to lock up all you crazy liberals. I've already seen, I had comments in one of my TikTok about it already, set from a Trumper saying, it's a great idea. Let's put all the corrupt Democrat politicians in there.
Yeah. 1,500 people. Okay.
Do you think that I'm hearing more Republicans, not only voters, but politicians getting a little weirded out about this tariff thing. Donald Trump is trying to be the tough guy. China isn't backing down. And what's going to happen is imminent. The empty shelves and the no ships coming and the breaking down of the supply chain. That's going to happen. Even if he came up with some magical answer to today or tomorrow, it's going to happen, at least for a month or so, and longer if he doesn't come up with an answer. But he's in a tough position because, he thought he could get China to bend. China did not bend. He went harder. They didn't bend. Now he's waiting for them to call, and they don't call. Now I'm hearing he's calling them, and they aren't answering. I'm kind of convinced at this point China has said, we can't trust the guy. We can't count on a negotiation with him because he'll never stick to it. So all we can do is just shove it down his throat. I'm convinced that's what China is essentially planning to do, even though it's going to hurt them too.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And as far as like the empty shelves, he's already doing it. He's going to try to blame Joe Biden for as long as he can. It's Biden's policies. It's Biden's fault. Biden did it, this and that. And his supporters are going to sit there and try to spin how empty shelves are great for business. And, it just means, just wait, when they get full again, it's going to be by American-made products. Oh, it's going to be so great. What people don't understand, and I worked in retail for a long time, how supply chain works.
Mm-hmm.
Your local grocery store, wherever they buy their products from, their warehouse holds a month worth, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever that number is. They try to hold enough product in that warehouse as a buffer so that every time the store orders something, the warehouse always has it. They're always trying to make sure that they've got a buffer. But the manufacturing side on the other side of it counts on the warehouses for every place they sell to doing that. So they're always ahead of the game.
Yep.
That's what happened in the pandemic when we were out of paper towels and toilet paper, and there was, you couldn't find it anywhere. You bought out every store. You bought out the warehouses faster than the manufacturers could restock. And now, if we're not getting products in from overseas because of these tariffs, how long is it going to be till the warehouse can restock? And then once they even start getting stuff, it's going to be on allotment.
Right.
Whatever the item might be, it might become, sure, stores might get 10 cases a week normally. You might be down to a case every other if that's all they can get in, just so every place gets a little bit until the supply chain fixes. And Donald Trump doesn't have a plan to fix any of it.
Yeah. And it's gonna fuck up every industry. First off, it's gonna fuck the longshoremen. They're not gonna have any work to unload containers that aren't coming. Number two, the truck drivers are gonna get hosed because no one's gonna be moving any containers of merchandise. The consumer, of course, is going to get screwed in every single industry, not just the grocery stores. It's going to affect the construction industry in a huge way because of a lot of steel that comes from China for construction materials, drywall, pipe, conduit, all kinds of stuff that would normally be here is not going to be here. So the construction industry is going to come to a halt in some ways. So and Christmas is already destroyed. I can tell you right now that because the merchandise that is normally, the toys and all the things that come in, those orders go in April, May, June to get here for September, October, November. So Christmas is destroyed this year. I'm sorry, kids, but it's going to be a rough Christmas this year. And it's unfortunate because it's all over something that's so stupid that it doesn't even make any sense whatsoever.
I want to go ahead, Eric.
Well, when saying Christmas is destroyed, one company I worked for ordered their Christmas stuff. Standard order went in a year and a half in advance, or it was something like that. They were already starting to receive Christmas by September. To have it out on the shelves by September, we were getting it in by July.
Wow.
Which means, the stuff for Christmas is already supposed to be hitting the shores by now, heading to warehouses. It's not moving.
Nope.
Anything you need to buy, your decorations, all the toys, all of it. If it's not here already, it's going to be probably disrupted. And the stuff that's already here, as it starts to as the supply chain starts to thin out on the rest of it, those prices are going to go up.
Yep.
Yeah. As people like us have been talking about this 4 or 5 years about the things that could happen if Donald Trump became president and did some of the things he's wanted to do. There's still a lot of people, maybe 49% of the country, that still voted for Donald Trump in spite of the warnings. Do you think that when this finally hits, when we get empty shelves, people can't get what they want, Christmas is destroyed, their summer is destroyed because they just can't get what they want, not to mention the actual trickle-down effect that works in this situation from the docks to the truckers to the retailers to the people who work in retail to all this stuff. It's going to trickle down to all of them. Do you think that's the point where we get some of these dumb fucks to wake up?
Yeah, I think some of it, but it also depends. I mean, we know it's going to take, several months for this to straighten out and fix itself, to fix the supply chain. Because like I said, when your warehouse is out, they got to start allotting just to make sure everybody gets a little. The longer it takes for this to get resolved and come back around, Donald Trump's plan of blaming it on Biden is only going to last so long, even with the dumbest of them. They will take it for so long, and then he'll say, if this goes 3-4 months, they're going to say, well, okay, if Biden fucked it up, why haven't you fixed it yet?
Right.
And he's not going to be able to talk his way out of it.
Same with the economy too. I mean, how long can it go on before it's no longer Joe Biden's fault? You know?
Well, I think a lot of people aren't buying it even now. They're finally
No.
waking up to the fact that Donald Trump is just an absolute bullshitter. But in terms of the tariffs, in terms of stock not coming here, we know a little bit about what happens when the supply chain breaks down. Funny, Donald Trump was responsible for that first one back in the 2000 late teens and 20 during COVID. Uh, if Donald Trump just says, I was wrong, I give up, I take all tariffs off, assuming China is amenable, it's still going to take 2 months to even get close to normal. So that means if Donald Trump woke up tomorrow and said, oh, I fucked up, I'm not doing this, and he's not going to do that. But even if he did, the summer is shot and
Right.
probably the fall.
I'd say
Yeah.
more than 2 months, Mike.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it'd be more
Well,
like 3 to 6 months.
I think depending on what you're talking about as far as summer being shot, for some products, summer's going to be fine because, like Christmas, that stuff has been in transit since December.
Yeah.
But late fall is probably already being affected. Christmas is going to be affected. And that's even if Doc woke up tomorrow tried to make all these great deals, but he can't make a good deal. But his idea of a good deal is you give me everything I want, I give you nothing.
Right.
Right.
And that doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work in business. It doesn't work in interpersonal relationships. It doesn't work anywhere except in the mind of a narcissist.
Yeah. Well, he thinks he's bigger and stronger and he can make people buckle their knees and bend the knee and do whatever they want. China is showing him very clearly, we're not doing that shit. We don't have to do that shit. China was smart in the first go round in the tariffs the first time around. They made some plans to account for something like this again, and they have other people they can trade with. It may not be as good as what they were dealing with America, and they may struggle too. But I guarantee you, China's smart enough to figure it out before this how they're going to survive. And that's the main thing here. It's not how you're going to flourish. It's just how you're going to survive while waiting out this dipshit.
Right. And not only that, but the Japanese are shaking a big stick at Trump too with the Treasury bonds. They're threatening to cash in like I forget how much $1 trillion worth of Treasury
Yeah.
bonds, which will just destroy the market. I mean, they could just sink us with that, because that'll affect the value of the U.S. dollar.
Can you guys explain? Do either one of you know much about the Treasury bonds? Because I've heard some explanations of it. It's different than the regular bonds. This is basically a way for other countries to invest in us, and it helps us
Yeah,
with whatever.
Eric probably knows better than me, but we sell our debt to other countries with Treasury bonds. That's basically it. They buy. Eric probably knows a little more about it than I do, but they buy our debt in hopes to make money on repayment.
And they pay them a pretty substantial interest rate, right?
Yeah. I don't
Yes.
know. I don't know what the exact rate is. It's a good rate. And whenever we're short money, which we have been short money for decades, we're running at a deficit. We have been at a deficit since the Clinton administration. Clinton had us at a surplus and working toward paying it off. But
Right.
George W. fucked that up.
Yeah.
But when we're running negative like we are, we need money. Well, we need to borrow it from somewhere technically. So we put
Right.
out these bonds and we say, okay, give us whoever wants to buy them can buy them. I think normally it's bought and sold between countries. They invest the money in us. We give them a good interest rate. And basically, now every month we have to keep paying a higher interest rate we just keep paying them interest every so often, and their bond gets worth more money. And that's why we keep getting deeper in debt. The amount we have to raise all of the time to cover just the interest keeps increasing.
Yep.
Because we constantly have to borrow more, even if we bring in the exact same amount of money, because we're constantly paying the interest on more borrowing.
It seems like U.S. Treasury bonds are similar on a national level or international level to, on a local level, payday loans. That's kind of what it seems like. It's that shady.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of. And the problem with it is like the analogy works out great. Is like you go get a payday loan. Okay, cool. I needed $200 to last me till payday. But then that next check comes and you now suddenly you're $200 short or 225 or whatever the interest comes out to. Oh shit, I need more money. So then you go borrow 250 till your next paycheck. And that's kind of what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Except there's no upper limit. There's no except for the debt ceiling, there's no limit to how much we can borrow. And then you have people like Donald Trump on the backside wanting to do things like we're going to cut income tax rates again for the top earners and the businesses. So there's even less money coming in. So we have to borrow even more and pay out even more interest.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And I don't think it's just foreign countries. Any person can buy treasury bonds. You can buy them, like a $20 treasury bond, and then you sit on it over time, and it might be worth $75 when you go to, cash it in.
Well, that's the one thing I learned. I grew up, I was in my 20s in the 80s. And the 80s was all about getting debt. Get as many credit cards as you want, live on the debt. And I found very quickly what happens when you do that. And I learned my lesson. I don't have a credit card right now. I just deal with debit cards. But when I was young and my wife and I didn't have any money, we got credit cards. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We used the credit cards to live and to buy the things we wanted to buy. And then we had to start paying. We had no money, so we got credit cards. So we got credit cards and used the credit cards. And when we had a little bit more money, we still had no money because we had to pay back the credit cards. It's a vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's frightening to believe that our country is in that same situation because it never turns out well. You were talking about Japan, talking about selling off their treasury bonds. Donald Trump probably doesn't get it, but I will bet there are some financial people in this country that are shitting their pants at that prospect. That is probably a more devastating threat than somebody pointing a nuclear missile at you, because the likelihood of a nuclear missile coming in is slim, but they can yank that fucking loan and call it tomorrow.
Yeah, that would tank the market so bad if that happened. It would be devastating. It'd be beyond worse than what we've seen so far.
Well, yeah, and part of it is, it would be so bad because a lot of people, they hold on to them forever because the interest we're always good for the interest.
Yeah.
And if now you're starting to call it because you think we're not good, okay, Japan drops $1 trillion. Okay, how much does China own? What if they drop 2 or 3 right after where we don't have it? Who are we going to borrow from to start paying back these loans? Who are we going to get the bonds from now? How are we going to raise that capital? And that's the problem. We've relied on these for so long, and then you got a dumb fuck like Donald Trump coming in, just wrecking everything, and now the security of what we've been working on is even up in the air.
That's a weird thing. I've talked about national security, and I'm of the belief right now, based on what we're seeing with Signalgate and all that stuff, we don't have any national security. There is no national security, and we are vulnerable to attacks and terrorist attacks and everything like that. What troubles me, though, is when we're talking about U.S. Treasury bonds, the position this country put themselves in is maybe even more dangerous than worrying about a prospective terrorist attack. It's one thing to put us in that position. This is where the dumbness of Donald Trump comes in. We're in a position that Japan or China or anybody else that has a lot of treasury bonds could just pull them and fuck us up mightily. That's bad enough that we're in that situation. But while in that situation, to go off and piss off all those countries, I got a rule. If I owe somebody money, I'm not going to piss them off until I pay them off, because they're in a position to fuck you up. So Donald Trump took a volatile situation potentially and almost guaranteed it by pissing off all the people that have money in this country.
Yeah, basically. And it's because he doesn't know how any of this works, and he doesn't have the people around him to tell him how it works. And he wouldn't listen to him even if he did. He comes in with this, oh, I know it all, I'm good, I got this mentality. And he probably thinks it's like his businesses. He'll just declare bankruptcy and it'll all go away. You bankrupt the federal government and we'll never get another loan as a country again.
No.
It wouldn't be, it's not like waiting out of bankruptcy 6-7 years or reform under a new name. That doesn't happen. And one of the other, on top of it, even though we've been running on the debt cycle for so long and we've been paying the interest, the rest of the world was happy to do it because we were paying them the interest.
Yeah.
And they were okay with it. So it gave us a lot of power. If we suddenly start reneging on that and not paying them and whatever, again, like everything else, he's going to fuck us on the world stage and make us look weak and drop us way down from what was the number one spot to who knows where.
Well, wouldn't you guys agree that this doesn't compute with Donald Trump? And I'll tell you why. Is because for his entire life, one of two things has happened. Either one, Daddy Freddie Trump bailed out Donald whenever he, fucked up and went underwater with whatever stupid fucking venture that he was doing. Or two, he filed for bankruptcy, got, bankruptcy protection, restructured and stole money from somewhere else and then restarted something new. So that doesn't compute with Donald Trump that if he does this to the United States of America, there's no one coming to save us. We're finished.
Right. Well, and that's why when people always say, we got to get a businessman running this country. Well, we tried that. It didn't fucking work. And it doesn't make sense that it would work because this isn't a company. This is far different than a company. You don't get to, like you say, just file bankruptcy and start over. You're not going to do that in this country. And I'm not sure that Donald Trump doesn't understand that.
He doesn't. Maybe he should call Lee Iacocca and ask him.
Yeah.
Well, as far as having a business, like the idea of a businessman running the country isn't a bad idea by itself. But we didn't get a successful businessman. We got somebody who declared bankruptcy a bajillion times. I mean, bankrupted, 2 casinos? Yep. And almost everything else he's touched. That's the difference here. Donald Trump doesn't have a clue how any of this works because there's always been a way out. There's always been an avenue. And even when he was bankrupting casinos, I remember reading an article about him bankrupting, was it the Taj Mahal maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
That as it was going under, he was still getting $100,000 or $1 million consulting fees. As it was going under, they were reimbursing him for him using his private helicopter to go to the casino, I think it was, and check things out. And he shifted all the assets out of the casino that was going under to himself. And he walked out with a bunch of money and left this business with nothing. And they declared bankruptcy and, he gets richer.
Well, that he fucked consultants. He fucked his architect. He fucked the contractors that built the place and put them out of business. He screwed everybody on that deal. And then he went under because there was no way he could get the income versus the cost of what he invested into it. It was impossible. Well, he was done from day one.
And when Daddy Trump died, that's when the influx of money laundering from Russia came in. We know Russia bought a bunch of condos in Trump Tower and fed Donald Trump money. I wonder sometimes if Donald Trump is on the hook for any money with Russia because they aren't very friendly if they feel like they're not getting their money back.
No, you end up going out a 5th-story window a lot of times.
Yeah, no shit. Did you guys hear this? Go ahead, Eric.
Well, I think he owes them money yet. I think he does.
I do too.
Absolutely.
Which explains part of how he's been with a lot of the things. buddying up to Putin and stuff. I think he's just trying to skate it for as long as he can. Now he may end up, if he does owe him money, I don't know how those deals are structured, but it is entirely possible he could leave Eric Jr. on the hook for whatever he owes after he's long gone.
Yeah. What do you think's going on? We have the Ukraine-Russia war. Donald Trump said he could wrap that up in 24 hours. Didn't work. I think he believed he could walk into Zelensky and put pressure on him and force him to give Vladimir Putin everything. That's not going to happen. Donald Trump is big on looking important and successful. He wants to get the Nobel Peace Prize so bad he can fucking taste it. So he goes to Zelensky, and Zelensky isn't going to cave at all. He goes back to Vladimir Putin, and Vladimir Putin comes up with new shit, like Vladimir Putin tends to do. So Donald Trump is frustrated at this point. He's frustrated at this point, and he's kind of calling out Russia. He wants this deal done so he can look good. He doesn't give a fuck about who's dying in this war. But do you think he starts trying to push back against, does he get high on his own supply, think he's pretty powerful? And does he start pushing back and pissing off Vladimir Putin? Because I think that probably wouldn't turn out well.
He might try to put but it wouldn't be the same kind of a pushback that you would get from Joe Biden, or definitely not what you would have gotten from Kamala Harris. They would have come in, held Putin's feet to the fire with the full weight of the government.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to do like he did in that, okay, guys, come on. It's going to be the soft-handed touch. He's going to push a little bit up until Russia calls him and says, hey, you owe us money, or whatever whatever they've got on him. Once they dangle that back in front of him and threaten him with the stick, he'll back right back off. It's not going to be a full push, and then he'll go, well, I tried.
Right. Well, come on, guys. Nobody wants to see the P tapes. We don't want to see it. We just don't.
No, we don't want to see the P tapes. But
yeah.
But Trump is in spite of how he comes out and he talks to the public, the fact that the economy is going to shit, the fact that Russia and Ukraine are still fighting, the fact that Gaza thing is still going on, he's probably pissed off at the people around him for not doing what he wants them to do, because he needs a success. And to date, in the first 100+ days in office, he has zero success. In spite of what Trump folks will say, they can't identify one success that Donald Trump has had since entering the office.
Well, he's been successful at losing, 70 court cases?
Yeah.
He's been successful at that, if it counts.
Yeah, he hasn't had a single win. He needs something to put under his belt as some kind of a win. Well, he did have a minor win, I guess. They kept the government funded through September.
Oh boy.
We'll give him that much. He got a minor win there, but there has been so much negative. He can't even spin that into he got any sort of success done.
You know what makes me really makes me happy? That the governor of Maine whipped his ass in court. Because that's got to piss him off so fucking bad that a Democrat governor who's a woman kicked his fucking ass.
And she wasn't quiet about it. People have to remember there was a speech he was giving, and he was talking about Maine not complying with his transgender rules. And the governor of Maine, a woman, said, I'll see you in court and I'll win. And Donald Trump says whatever he says. No, you're not. I'm the most powerful guy. Well, they did go to court. Donald Trump lost. In fact, they didn't even go to trial. Donald Trump's team settled with her. They knew they weren't going to win in court, so they thought they'd try to keep it quiet and settle with her. But she's not being quiet about it. And this is exactly what somebody has to do. They have to rub their fucking nose in it.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's just brilliant.
Yeah.
Of course, Donald Trump lost. They're going to lose at every turn because he doesn't know what he's doing. Even the attorneys they have around him, unless they get even pardons, wouldn't necessarily help them after it's all said and done. I wouldn't be surprised after he's out of office if a lot of them don't end up being Rudy Giuliani to losing their law license.
Yep. I agree with
What do you
that.
think? Do you think there's any chance of that happening before he's out of office? I mean, we've got this whole thing with Gilmar Abrega Garcia, the guy that went to El Salvador, and now they're telling him to bring him back. Even the courts are telling him to bring him back. Donald Trump said something today or yesterday. He says, I'm not sure if I have to protect the Constitution. He said it differently. I'm not sure I have to um, stand behind the Constitution in regards to due process. I said, I like presidents who have read the Constitution. I like presidents who have comprehended the Constitution. I like presidents that fucking read in general. Donald Trump doesn't know what he's talking about. He is dead wrong in this situation, and he just cannot say it. So now he's got to try to say, well, there's some loophole, and if they do this, this is what the lawyers are doing. If they don't get this guy back, it's likely there's going to be some contempt of court handed out here. And it's going to be handed out to the lawyers and other people around Donald Trump, not Donald Trump. Some actions are going to be taken. And it's going to be, if they get them civilly, there's nothing Donald Trump can do by pardoning them. But somebody's made the suggestion, if you want to take down a dictator, you take down the pillars. And in terms of pillars, we're talking about lawyers and people around him that don't have the immunity. Do you agree with that sort of thing?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you take the people around him down, the ones that are, like the attorneys that are willing to go in and say these kind of things in court and try to twist and everything, if they start getting taken down, he's going to be having a harder time finding more attorneys that are willing to do those kind of things.
Yeah.
Same thing with everybody else. The more they get taken out, look at who he has around him right now. I'm not even sure there's a full cabinet.
No.
No, it's not. We don't have an NSA director yet.
Yeah, because he can't find enough good people around him, and that's how you take him out. You can't, if you keep putting the pressure on the people around him, he won't be able to find enough yes men and the people he wants around him to fill those positions. Yeah, he said, what was it? He doesn't have to, he's not sure if he has to actually defend the Constitution or uphold the Constitution, I think is what he said, for due process. But you bastard, you took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution to the best of your ability.
Right.
Don't you think upholding that is part of defending it, you dumb son of a bitch?
Yeah, it says it right in the oath of obligation for the President of the United States to uphold the Constitution. And all this minutia about, well, I have lawyers and they're brilliant and they think that's all bullshit. The Constitution is clear. And there's 3 equal branches of government. So when the courts tell him, because he sat there and lied in that interview, well, the Supreme Court interpreted this and that's not what I was told. That's absolute bullshit. Like, they know exactly what they're supposed to do. They're just making a fucking smokescreen not to do it. But eventually, some of these attorneys the judges are going to have enough of their bullshit, and they're going to, charge them with contempt of court, because the attorneys are going to be responsible, and some other folks in the administration are going to be responsible, and they may end up getting a visit from a U.S. Marshal at their residence, and they're going to, judges can throw people in jail for contempt easily. So they might think they're going to work in the morning and end up going for a ride to federal holding.
And the only problem with that is that the federal marshals work under Pam Bondi and the DOJ. So theoretically, Donald Trump could throw a hitch into that whole fucking thing too, which makes it even more troubling. I don't understand how lawyers do what they're doing with Donald Trump now. All they have to do is look at the first term. And during the time he was on trial, when he wasn't president, a lot of those motherfuckers got sanctioned. Some got disbarred. Why would you put yourself in that situation knowing what you're saying is a flat out lie? Why are you so loyal to Donald Trump knowing this is going to kick your ass when it's all said and done? Because Donald Trump won't be around forever.
Right.
Well, I think part of it is they're convinced that they're some of them might be caught up on their own ego that they think they've got some brilliant idea that the judge is going to side with them. Other ones might think that if they can push this far enough, they'll get a pardon, they'll get this, they'll get that, they'll get their way. Some of them might just be doing, we don't know what they're getting paid. It might just be for the money, figuring
Right.
that they can do what they can for the paycheck right now, and they'll figure out the rest of it afterward, hoping it's enough to last, the rest of their lives. Any one of them could be the answer there.
Right. Or
Well,
they're
well,
getting plane tickets to Venezuela when it's all over.
yeah, we got some nice rooms in the prison down there. Now, did you hear what was it I heard? Was it NATO that was talking to Venezuela or El Salvador saying, listen, we give you $300 million a year. You're doing the wrong thing by putting people in jail that aren't given due process. If you want to lose that 300 million or billion, whatever it is, you better get on the fucking stick here. Now, Donald Trump is paying them $15 million a year to keep these people. But if this overriding organization says we're not sending you any more money, it's going to be interesting to see what the president of El Salvador actually does.
My money would be on going with the bigger paycheck. That's just me.
That would be
That
the
seems to
smart
be
move.
where a lot of people make that play, is for the bigger paycheck. The thing about the due process is a lot of the Trumplefucks don't understand what due process even means. They keep saying due process is only for Americans. Well, I don't know. Do they think it has something to do with a government handout or an entitlement program or something?
They must.
Because how else do you prove you're an American citizen? Because I will watch them talk themselves in circles in comment sections about having to be only due process for America. Well, how do I show them? How do you show them you're an American citizen?
Right.
Well, I show them my driver's license. What if they take it, rip it from you?
Right.
Well, then I got to show my birth certificate in front of a judge. You don't get due process. You're not in front of the judge.
Right.
Well, they have to let me be in front of a judge. I'm an American citizen. They will talk themselves in circles.
Right. And think about it deeper than this. The framers wrote that for a reason. And back when all this was happening, when they were writing this stuff, there was no driver's license. There was no photo IDs. There probably wasn't even birth certificates at that point. So right. They wrote any person. It didn't say American. It didn't say citizen. It said any person. Basically, if you're present within this land, you have the right to due process. That's what they're not fucking understanding about it. Being present here means that you get due process. And being present here on a visa means that you, much to their dismay, are entitled to certain rights under the Constitution, whether they like it or not. Just because you say something and you're here on a student visa doesn't mean that you can just be grabbed up by people in masks and taken and thrown into a prison in another country. It doesn't work like that. And
somebody made the point. Somebody made the point that in this country, you're innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
So if you haven't had due process, how do we even know they're illegal immigrants? I mean, you got to have that process in order to get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if you are here illegally, right? If you're here illegally and you ask for a hearing, they're supposed to facilitate you having a hearing if you ask for it. If you're claiming something like asylum, or you're saying that I'll be harmed if I return to wherever I go, they're supposed to give you that.
Well, and Eric, maybe you know better than I do on this, but being a legal immigrant isn't a criminal action. It's a civil action, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe it. I think it's civil. It might be criminal, but I believe the penalty for being here illegally is removal.
Right.
Like it's not a jail term
No,
penalty
No.
as
no, you
far as
don't go
I'm
to jail for that.
aware.
No.
No,
No,
unless you're
it's just
going back
we
to a country that was going to put you in jail, but that's not our
right.
problem because it's that country.
Yeah.
Um, Donald Trump, whenever Donald Trump is asked about this, or some of the people around him, they say, well, the thing about it is there's 21 million people coming across the border every year, which I think is probably high. 21 million coming across the border. We've got all these rapists and burglars and robbers and murderers and that sort of thing. Um, if we had to put them all on trial, it would take hundreds of years to do it. So based on that, we can just load them on planes and send them to a jail in El Salvador. And I know when Tony Moran was talking to him, he says, "Yeah, I understand your problem there, but it's the fucking law. It says it in the Constitution. These people love to talk about being constitutional originalist. In the 14th Amendment, it says you got to have fucking due process, regardless of if it's inconvenient for you. We got to remember, like Eric said, this was written at a time when there were far fewer people and far fewer
Hmm.
things to get this thing done. But if you're going to be an originalist, then be a fucking originalist."
Right. Here's a suggestion, just an idea. If they opened amnesty to citizenship and they said, okay,
Yeah.
listen, all of you who are here illegal, give us your information and submit it, and you can get in on amnesty. And they did that, and they did all the vetting, all the background checks. They could do that in reasonable amounts of time. And they can do, the ones that are questionable, they can go and bring in and question or whatever. And the ones who are criminals, they can, obviously they're not going to do that. Give amnesty to the ones that are legitimate. They're migrant workers, or they're going to, schooling or whatever they're doing, or they're young children of people who are not documented people. They could create an amnesty, and then after that, then go after the people who are left. Wouldn't that be fucking easier? I mean, it seems like simple logic.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing
Yeah.
about it is what Donald Trump is doing here has nothing to do about illegal immigrants. Well, it does have to do with illegal immigrants, but his strategy here is the same thing with the tariffs. I've said my take on the art of the deal is this. Go in there, think you're the strongest guy, pick somebody weaker, pound them into submission, take everything they've got, and that's the art of the deal. And it's the same thing with this immigration thing. Make it very cruel, make it very vicious. And in Donald Trump's mind, if we separate families, if we deport 2 year olds, if we send them to a prison in El Salvador, then they'll just stop doing it because it's too much risk for them to do it. That's his game. It's not really about sending people out of the country. It's about scaring people or
Right.
terrorizing people so they don't
Yeah.
come in. Now, I
Yeah.
will say there's less people coming across the border right now, and that's the one place where Donald Trump won. Mainly, there's less people coming across the border because who the fuck wants to come to this shithole?
Exactly. As far as the process, I want to touch on real quick history lesson. We've all, if you remember your history, you remember the Boston Massacre,
Hmm.
where the American colonists threw snowballs at some British soldiers, and then the soldiers opened fire against people with snowballs, and they killed some colonists.
Right.
John Adams, our second president, defended the soldiers in that case. Even
Really?
though he was against the British Army, he was for independence, but he took the case because he said they deserved the right counsel, is due process.
Wow. Again, it was different times too. We were a wild wilderness. It was before the
Oh
Wild
yeah,
West. I mean, that's the
oh yeah,
problem with the Constitution. There's all kinds of suggestions and rules and stuff that aren't really appropriate for today. I mean, we talk about the First Amendment and a well regulated militia, which Trump fucks like to ignore. But the level of weapons then and the level of weapons now, there's no comparison. They could have never known what the possibilities were.
No.
Oh no. Typical musket. I don't remember the range. It was only I think 100 or 200 feet with any
Yeah.
amount of even close accuracy. But a lot of times it was you just leveled it and you shot in a straight line and you hope for the best. Like there wasn't nearly the precision that we have now.
Well, that's why they would line up on the battlefield back then. They
Yeah.
all get in a line and just, it was like throwing a Hail Mary down the range. You know what I mean? There was no
Yep.
real accuracy to those muskets.
Well, that's how we beat the the British. The British were along those same lines where they kneel in 2 or 3 rows and they just shoot at each other. I got to be honest with you. If I was a soldier back in those days, I'd go, "Are you fucking crazy? I'm not going to stand in front of them and shoot at them and hope to God I don't get hit." But of course, the Americans were a much smaller army, a much weaker country at that point. We weren't even really a country, but they employed guerrilla warfare. They're hanging up trees and hiding behind rocks, and the British had no idea what the fuck to do with that, and that's why Americans won that fucking thing.
Right, because the Royal Army followed all the rules of engagement for wartime. So they would just say, they thought, okay, the Americans have to meet us in the middle of the field. We we'll all line up and then we shoot at each other. But we didn't do that. We did what you said. We attacked them from the wood line, or we like snipers and things like that. We hid and attacked them at night and all kinds of things. They couldn't comprehend that we didn't follow the decorum of warfare. That's exactly how we won.
I'm sure when they went back to England, somebody says, "You lost to America?" And they were like, the Republicans going, "Well, they fucking cheated. They fucking cheated."
It was rigged. It was rigged against them.
Yeah, it was a hoax. Fake news. We actually won. Yeah, I'm feeling like the start of this week, we're starting to see some things changes. I've been hearing a lot about the oil industry. Donald Trump's big plan is drill, baby, drill. The more we drill, the cheaper the prices of gas will go. And prices are coming down a little bit, but I understand from watching Mr. Global and some other people that's not necessarily good news. We've got the Arab countries ramping up supply, which means prices will go lower, and companies in America are going to pull back. In spite of what Donald Trump says, they're not going to sell the cheap oil. They're going to hold until they see some change. This is not going to go well because it's going to, from what Mr. Global said, it's going to go down a little bit, and then by the end of the summer, it's going to be fucking sky high.
Right.
Well, the thing is, he doesn't have to win. He doesn't have to get the gas prices to go down. He's done enough already by just saying they're down. I saw a video from a Trump supporter. It was shared by, I think it was Tom Powell Jr. And it was saying, this is what we're fighting. He said, Donald Trump said gas is $1.98. This little old lady on there saying, where are you at, Florida? I just paid $3.19 a gallon. Donald Trump said national average is $1.98. Why are we paying so damn much? And she wholeheartedly believed that she was paying over $1 more a gallon in Florida because Donald Trump said it was $1.98. At least his ardent supporters are going to believe that the national average is down and their area is the only area that's high.
I think I read yesterday that the lowest price in the country right now was like $2.57 somewhere. Like that was the lowest number. It's not even close.
Yeah.
And we bought gas today and it was like a $2.99 or something like that. It's not dropped. Eggs haven't dropped. Grocery prices haven't dropped.
No.
Like I've said before, I'm not worried about higher prices. I'm just worried about not being able to buy shit you need.
Right.
That's what's going to freak people out.
Yeah. But the fact that he has said it's down, there are people out there that just based on him saying it, they believe it. And the rest of it's coming. Not being able to buy shit, stuff going up in price. It's all coming. And they will look at they will see the prices going up with their eyes and go, it's not Donnie's fault. He says it's not happening. So clearly it's this other person's fault or whatever. They will justify it. And it is mind boggling the mental gymnastics they do to make it all work.
Well, the only motherfucking thing that's down is the stock market and my fucking 401k. Those are the only things that are fucking down. Food's not down, groceries aren't down, eggs aren't down, gas isn't down. None of that shit's down except for the fucking stock market.
Well, Donald Trump is saying some pretty telling things. Prior to the election, he said prices will come down day one.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubting that he said that. So then the day he took office, they said, well, when are the prices coming down? Well, it's going to take some time. Yeah, but you said, yeah, but I was joking or whatever. You got to give me time. It'll be fine. And then he pumped it up a little bit and he said, it's going to hurt a little bit. It's going to hurt. There's going to be problems for a little bit, but don't worry. On the other side, everything's going to be great. And just recently, he's in an interview and he basically said, yeah, I'm okay with a recession. I'm okay with a little recession because it's going to be the greatest economy ever on the other side. And his answer to people for their kids for Christmas, a lot of toys come from China, said, well, instead of getting $30, maybe they'll get $2. I mean, Donald Trump has pretty much said, we don't care if you suffer. We're just going to do what we want to do. And you would hope this clicks in some people's minds. But I'm convinced the only way we wake these people up is an absolute catastrophe. And we're at the doorstep right now of said catastrophe.
Yeah, but doesn't that whole statement, when you think about what you just said about him saying, well, instead of getting $30, you're only getting $2 and they might cost a little more. Doesn't that just basically prove to Americans that he's totally out of touch with reality? And like that's not a thing. Like you have Christmas and you get some gifts and stuff, but there's no kid getting $30 like that. He's just totally out of touch with reality.
No. Yeah. And the thing about it is that he this is what I try to tell Trumplefucks, and they aren't listening.
No.
Here's a guy that told you prices would go down day one, and they didn't. They went the other way. Now he's telling you down the road it'll be the greatest economy ever. Are you going to believe the guy who lied to you in the fucking first place? Because if you do, you're an idiot.
Well, that's just it. They will believe it. They'll believe that the prices went down. He's even saying it's still Biden's fault. Was it on Meet the Press today where he said all the bad things, that's all because of Joe Biden. I need more time to fix it. But if it's good, it's all on me.
Right. That's
and
so ridiculous.
I mean, he spelled out exactly how he operates right there in that one little comment. But that's the thing.
Hey,
go ahead.
I just thought of this real quick, and it made me laugh inside my mind, so I had to bring it up. So back in October, before the election, my cousin, who's a Trump-lefuck, put on a social media app, and he put, my 401k is fat right now because it's growing because they know Trump's going to be president. And I had forgotten about that for a little while, and I thought about it the other day. And Trump's, blaming this economy on Joe Biden, and clearly that's not the case, because when Joe Biden was president, I had 46 months straight of growth in my 401k. I didn't lose anything. So what could he possibly be thinking now?
These people are they're not even oblivious. They're just so broken that they will lie for Donald Trump. I've seen people say my 401k is better than ever. No, it's not, motherfucker.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. What did you invest in Donald Trump's crypto? Did you hear the story about the crypto?
Yeah.
Somebody pointed out and said, if you spent $13,000 on Donald Trump's crypto today, like a month later, 2 months later, it's now worth $350. Good investment. Now, those people who bought that crypto will say it's fucking genius. It's the best thing ever. They will flat out lie just so they don't have to be proven wrong.
Right. And Donald Trump made all the money on it.
Well,
Yeah, Donald
good.
Trump pocketed some money.
Yeah.
Well, but they're convinced that it's going to come back around in part because, I don't know what it's currently at, but you see things like all the other cryptos, Bitcoin and stuff. Oh, that's a way up.
Yeah.
And it was volatile for a long time. They're convinced that eventually the Trump coin's going to do the same thing, not realizing that
It's a junk coin, Eric. It's a junk coin.
I know.
Yeah.
I know it's a junk coin.
Right.
But they don't realize it. They look at what happened before, and they to other cryptos and go, oh well, if I hold on to it long enough, I'm going to make the real money. I'm going to be the genius. What was I? Oh, in the musical 1776 about the American signing of the Declaration, there's a line in there. I just watched it again not that long ago, and one of the people who were against independence said about convincing people to be on their side, it is easier to convince a poor person about the possibility of becoming rich than ever to get them to accept the reality that they're poor.
Yeah.
And
No,
when it comes to Trump holders, it's true. They will buy into all this bullshit that Trump is selling, the crypto and the NFTs and all of it, on the hope that one day they will be as rich as Trump appears to be.
yeah.
Well, that crypto thing is probably the best scam yet, if you think about it. Because the NFTs, okay, they spent, $4,800 on these things, and they think they're going to gain some value, but the crypto scam was probably the best one yet. I mean, because
Yeah.
that Trump coin is not like Bitcoin or Ethereum, where there's actually a market in its holding. Like it might go up and it might go down, but it kind of holds in a realm, right? Where all these junk coins come out, like the Doge coin, and all these coins come out all the time, and they just end up being junk coins. It's a pump and dump scheme. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
all it is.
Well, they just put out some information about Donald Trump's powerhouse media company, True Social, and whatever's behind that. Last year, True Social generated about 5 million in income and lost over $400 million last year. They lost $400 million. That company wouldn't even exist anymore if Donald Trump's name wasn't attached. I mean, it's
No.
been losing hundreds of millions of dollars every year it's been in operation.
Yeah, it would be long gone. Any business operating like that would have been gone in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't have gotten the financial backing anywhere to keep paying the bills. Where are they getting the money to keep paying those bills is what I want to know. Who's lending them?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I wonder if whatever investors are trying to keep it afloat. It's not like this isn't like one of Donald Trump's solo ventures where he loses all his money, like Trump University or Trump Vodka or Trump Airlines or Trump Casino. He must have. The way I remember it is that he did have other investors in that before it went public. So there's got to be some shareholders in that are somehow propping that thing up so it doesn't collapse. I don't know how they're doing it, but there's something seedy. Maybe his buddy Vlad's dumping some money into it somehow. I don't know.
I would not be surprised. I think the money coming into it is basically paying for influence with Donald Trump more than anything.
Yeah.
Favors for Donald Trump.
Probably.
And that, of course, brings up Elon Musk. Elon Musk you haven't heard as much about him lately because he got his ass whooped and it's continuing to get whooped. They did try to go to court. They did take it to the Supreme Court, hoping that they could get in and look at the Social Security. I don't know what the Supreme Court's going to say about that. Hopefully, they're smart enough to not allow it. But you haven't heard much about Elon, except that we've heard that Tesla is talking about firing Elon as the CEO. And then shortly after that, Elon comes out and says, I'm thinking of quitting Tesla because they're not paying me enough. Yeah, that's trying to save some face. But I got to be honest. In my opinion, they can get rid of Elon Musk. They can do whatever. Tesla's cooked now. It's never coming back. It just
No,
is not coming back.
it's done.
Well, I'm going to only slightly disagree. In the short term, Tesla's cooked. If they dump Elon Musk, 10 years, 15 years down the road, if they can just stay busy enough to stay afloat, I think they could recover. But it's not going to be a quick fix.
No.
Like,
Well, they've got some things working
Dump
against
it.
them. They got Ford, Chevy, and all the other big companies doing the electric stuff. We're hearing about BYD in China. They're all doing better stuff than Tesla at this point. Tesla has been pretty stagnant. They haven't really innovated much recently. They had a decent car, but they haven't innovated. The innovations they've done, like the Cybertruck, is a fucking joke. Elon Musk has been saying for 5 years that the fully automated cars are just 2 weeks away. He's been
Right.
saying this since 2019, and it's never come to fruition. There isn't the money or the technology or the know-how to do it. The Tesla cars look the same as they did 4 or 5 years ago. It's just
Yeah.
not a real solid company. They may have a good car, but they do tend to burn up now and again. That's why somebody said to me, you know why they quit burning cars is because they didn't need to. They do it on their own eventually.
Right. Well, and that's the big fuck up. Like they need to go back to the drawing board with their R&D and stuff, because they're the fact that these things are burning up and the Cybertruck panels are glued on with construction adhesive and they're blowing
Yeah.
off and causing damage on the highway and all this shit. Like, that's not a good look. Elon Musk aside, I mean, it's not good for them. If they maybe what Eric says has some validity, if they push him out now and then they start getting back to R&D and pushing out some new, like you said, new styles, and the safety stuff gets addressed, there might be a chance they survive it. But to me, it seems pretty unlikely. I mean, it's once you have the stink of Donald Trump on you, it's hard to walk away.
To me,
Yeah.
what Tesla has to do is they have to kick out Elon Musk, find another CEO that can change the entire branding of the
Yeah,
product. They need to
exactly.
change the name of Tesla to something different. And they need to retool so they have a cooler looking car or a better technology. They have to change everything if they hope to survive. And
Yeah,
that will take 5 to 10 years.
and they got to get rid of that Cybertruck because it's a fucking douche mobile. I mean,
It
every
really
time
is.
I see every time I see one, I'm just make fun of it. I mean, that
Yeah.
was the poorest design. It looks like the garbage can in the grocery store bathroom. It's a piece of shit. They need to get rid of. Eric knows what I'm talking about when I say that. It looks like that garbage can that you see in the bathroom of the grocery store. It's a fucking
Yeah.
joke, man. They need to get rid of
Yeah.
that thing.
You might be right. If they get rid of Musk and they bring in somebody new, they retool, they might even be able to salvage the Tesla name, but they need to do a lot. And considering how long was Elon Musk the head of Tesla while working in the government and campaigning and doing and running Twitter and everything, I got an idea. Go ahead, they can keep doing what they're doing. They can make me the CEO, give me that paycheck, and I will put in at least as much work as Elon Musk has put into Tesla in the last 6 months.
And you probably have as much technical ability as Elon Musk has. I mean,
He
everybody
probably
makes
has
him out
more.
to be
Possibly
they make
more.
him out to be
Yeah.
this genius. He's done exactly what Donald Trump has done. Got money from dad, bought a company, acted like he invented it. Then he bought another company. I mean, he started out being a kid with daddy's money invested in PayPal. He made a lot of money there, and from there he went on and bought, Tesla and other shit. Uh, but Elon has the same problem with Donald Trump. They may win for a little while, but ultimately they both always fail. I mean, he said he was going to save this country $1 trillion, $2 trillion. Then he said, now it's going to be $1 trillion. Then he said, well, I've saved you 150 billion. When it comes down to it, it's more like 25 billion, but they haven't been able to document exactly how they've been able to do that. And the damage they've done to this country has cost us more than $150 billion.
Not only
Well, yeah.
that, but the cost to fix the damage after the fact, when this is all over, will significantly exceed all of that.
Absolutely.
Not to mention the stupid $90 million military parade that I that just makes me sick to my stomach. What that whole premise of that military parade, why the fuck do we need? I mean, it's just a, they talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. Like, that is the definition of waste, fraud, and abuse right there. $100 million to drive tanks down the street in Washington, D.C. And then, whatever it costs to repave the roads because the tanks are so heavy that they destroy the asphalt. That makes fucking no sense at all.
I think I know where he came up with that idea, though.
His little buddy up in North Korea.
No. His little buddy, his best girlfriend up in Russia.
Oh.
Because on May 9th, Russia was going to have a normally planned parade about their win in World War II. And
but they didn't have any military vehicles left.
Well, that's the thing. They said we're inviting all leaders from all around the country, including Donald Trump. And then Zelensky stuck it in his ass by saying, now listen, we're at war with Russia. If you come up there, we respect all you leaders, but we can't guarantee your safety. We can't guarantee your safety. And now leaders are going, you know what? I don't really have time to go up there. I got other shit. So Vladimir Putin is shitting his pants because all these people that may have come are now saying, I don't know. I don't think you're that tough. And maybe Zelensky's going to send some drones in there, bomb the shit out of Red Square.
Right.
Yeah. And now what? Donald Trump wants to do something with May 9th here, making it another holiday. And then he wants to redo Veterans Day.
To Victory Day or whatever.
Else. Victory Day, yeah.
Yeah, Victory Day.
Yes, you can have it be for both things, but there's a reason it's Veterans Day on that date.
Right.
It's because we were already doing that. He just wants to rename it, call it something new, and say, look at the great thing I did. He's trying to manufacture small wins wherever he can because he's constantly losing.
Well, wasn't Veterans Day originally Armistice Day or whatever the heck it was? That's what
I think so.
Like
yeah.
Which is effectively what he wants to turn it back to.
Oh my God.
With a new name.
But he got a lot of pushback. I don't think he's going to jump on that. A lot of people were fucking freaking out. They should be freaking out about how he's treating veterans anyway. But that may be the last straw. And this is exactly what Donald Trump does. You guys have been in business. This is what new management does. They take things that are already intact. They say, we got to retool it to make it better. They don't do anything. They put another name on it. So it's attached to their success, presumably. Donald Trump did that with NAFTA. He did that with NAFTA. NAFTA was set up. He goes, I don't like NAFTA. So he goes in and retools it, changes some minor things, and he calls it something else. And he says it's the greatest trade deal ever. Then he comes back into office, says it's the worst trade deal ever, and breaks every fucking treaty in that trade deal. It's just it's so fucking childish. It's so ignorant. It's laughable if it wasn't so sad.
Yeah. I mean, he reminds me kind of a lot of the managers. You mentioned retail and new management coming in and changing things. The number of times over the years I worked for different retail places, and you get a new manager in, well, we want to try do this project this way. I go, yeah, well, we tried it this year. It failed every time. Well, it's going to work this time because I had the idea. Then we try it. It fails. We go back doing it the way we did the last 10 years because we've tried it. They didn't change anything about the implementation. It was just, well, do it because I want it done that way. for nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. And every time that happens, when there's a change in the management, they're a fucking bull in a china shop every time. And I would say 90% of the time they fuck up. I mean,
Oh
that's
yeah.
really how it goes. At my every single experience that I've had, you know, out working in, like, I worked in retail too at one point, and every single time the management changed, it was like a bull in the china shop. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing, and then they fuck up, and then they go back to doing what worked before that they were trying to change.
Yeah. Yeah. It's well, we're coming to the end here, but I want to ask both of you. We're in the early part of the week here, and every week some crazy, goofy, fucking terrifying and silly shit happen. What do you guys foresee happening um, for the rest of this week? I know the oil industry is going to be coming out with some fucked up shit, according to Mr. Global. Um, what do you think? What kinds of things do you think we're going to see in this upcoming week going to the next weekend? It seems to take forever.
Hmm. That I'm not sure. I mean,
It's hard to tell because because because
it's
I
like
mean, who could have predicted we were going to reopen Alcatraz? I mean, fuck.
yeah, that's what I mean. It's like a new crazy thing. Like, you can't even imagine. Like, that one, was that on your checklist for what the fuck was going to happen this year? Because it sure as
No,
fuck wasn't on mine. Like,
No.
it's so, like, it's so unpredictable, and like, the things that happen are so alarming. It's just, you can't, like, I have no prediction about even what will happen in 4 or 5 days, let alone like months, or I just don't know.
I've got a couple of predictions.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what the actual outcome is going to be or what's going to happen. But Donald Trump is going to fuck up. Trump fucks are going to try to find a way to excuse him fucking up and blame Biden. And Donald Trump is going to shit his pants.
Okay,
Okay.
that's a legitimate prediction. I will give Eric that. That is
I
That's
wish
the
I
best
was.
I've got. I can't tell you how he's going to fuck up, but he's going to fuck something up. Oh, and then he's going to try to find a way to uh, come out with something new, another big exaggeration like opening Alcatraz to divert attention away from him fucking up and losing again.
Well,
I,
I'll take it one further. Not only is that going to happen, but it's going to happen daily.
Pretty much,
Probably.
pretty much. I'm waiting for him to get a wheelchair and claim to be the second coming of FDR, even though he's quite the opposite. But yeah, I was going to say the same thing. The only thing you can predict is that it will be unpredictable and he will fuck up. I've been saying that for 5 years. He fucks up every day. He implicates himself in some shit, and hopefully we get much closer to the Republicans. Last question: do you think we're getting closer to Republicans in Congress saying, "A fucking enough. We got to get rid of this guy"? You think we're getting closer to that?
No, not until the midterm.
Really? Till we
Um,
get closer? By that time, it's too late, though.
I
yes and
agree.
no. I think on some levels they're already looking at it. I did a TikTok talking about this poll that came out of Georgia where they were looking at who could run against Ossoff for that Senate seat. And Marjorie Taylor Greene came in dead last, but Brian Kemp, if he ran against Ossoff, would actually be up within the margin of error, but leading against Ossoff. And they part of the article said they're kind of trying to convince Kemp to run because he's not associated with Trump. They're already looking at places where they need pickups in the midterms, um, and they're looking for people to run that are not as closely tied to Trump. I think the pushback is going to start, and I think they're really going to start pushing, and they may even have to dump him once the shelves get bare. And that may be their only saving grace for the midterms is if they get rid of him, go with Vance after the supply chain falls to shit again. They could maybe try to say, well, see, we did something. We tried to fix it. It was all Donald Trump.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I halfway agree with what Eric said, but I don't think things are bad enough yet to make it full on change like that, because they're the Republicans are in a rock and a hard place right now because they're getting lambasted in their town halls. The ones that are doing them, like Chuck Grassley, he got his ass kicked in the town hall. And twice he got his ass kicked, and he couldn't understand why. That's hilarious. But so they're in a rock and a hard place because their constituents are pissed off and coming to town halls, but they're terrified of Donald Trump. So they have quite a problem the way out there. You know, are they going to get fucked by Donald Trump supporters in the election, or are they going to get fucked by the other 70% of the constituents in the Republican Party? Which is it going to be? So,
you brought up Ossoff and you brought up Kemp. I think Kemp has a problem. Maybe not today if you were to do polls today, but the catastrophe is imminent. It's going to be bad. And at that point, anybody with R against their name is going to be in trouble. And even if Kemp isn't attached to Trump, he's still a Republican, and he may have a problem too. I'd hate to see us lose Ossoff because I think he's a solid guy, but Ossoff does lose. I bet you he runs for president in 2028.
Yeah,
I would say that, except I would much rather have him win the Senate seat.
Oh, absolutely.
And run in 28 rather than trying to run from a losing position. Because it's harder to swallow when the guy you're trying to say, hey, come vote for me, just lost his last re-election campaign.
Right.
As far as in Georgia.
True. But as far as whether or not they're ready to push back and drop Trump, I still contend that even if they're not there publicly, these conversations, kind of like what we're already having, are going on behind closed doors.
Oh,
they're
definitely.
talking about it.
Definitely they are.
They're not, maybe not in the MAGA circle,
no.
But your long-termers, your Mitch McConnells, your Chuck Grassley's, they're talking.
I think they're
strategizing.
They've been talking, and
yes.
Not even just now. It's been probably since February. They've been talking about this.
Yeah, and I think those conversations are going. They're weighing all of it. We'll never hear about what is actually going to happen until it does.
Right.
But I think they're already considering, and they're watching. And I think if it gets back to a tipping point, it won't be a snap decision. It may appear like it, but this will have been very measured coming from them ahead of time.
Yeah, no doubt. Last question for you. If you were to pick today, knowing nothing else about what's going to happen in the future, if you were to pick today a Democratic candidate for 2028, who would it be?
Oh, I'm going to get in trouble for this one. I'd probably say J.B. Pritzker.
Yeah. What do you say, Eric?
My gut feeling right now for today, I'd say I'm at a toss-up between Pritzker and, honestly, Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Just today. I mean, we got 3.5 years till the election, but I think she's still right now the face of the Democratic Party, and I think she could have a shot with full buildup, a full primary, not being tied by being able to having to walk that tightrope with the Biden administration. I think she's the front runner till she decides she's not.
Yeah, especially if the whole country tanks because of Republicans, that changes the whole perspective. I would say Pritzker right now. The reason I'm troubled by Kamala, not having nothing to do with her, I think we found out that this country is more racist and more sexist, and I think sexism is a bigger problem than the racism with her. J.B. Pritzker, he's a white guy. He's not too old. He's a legitimate billionaire, and he's the one guy basically telling Donald Trump to fuck off. And the Democrats in this country want somebody who's going to fight and be tough and street fight. Yeah. And he's the only one really doing that to any extent.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly my position on it too, is that he's actually telling Trump to go fuck yourself. You're not going to tell me what to do, and you're not going to tell my state what to do. So I think that's my number one pick right now. My second would be my governor, Josh Shapiro. You know,
Yeah.
that he's my second pick, but there are some things about him that I think Pritzker's a little bit better at. But if I had to make a second pick, that's who it would be.
Let's just hope Charlie Pritzker doesn't start a podcast in French case Trump le fuck.
Ugh.
If he doesn't do
Right.
that, we'll be okay.
As far as Kamala though, one of the reasons I think she might still have a chance as the front runner too is we are watching in real time the effects of her loss.
Yeah.
You
True.
know, it's not, this isn't a hypothetical with, well, could he do a better job or whatever? She's the one who was running against Donald Trump, and Donald Trump won. And look at the result. And I've been seeing a lot of posts out on TikTok and stuff saying, just comparing the two of what she said versus what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I think that could carry some weight. But again, we got 3.5 years till the election, probably 2 until we got to start really thinking about who's actually in the primary.
Yeah, and things change a lot. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see Kamala Harris as president. I think she's uniquely qualified. I think she's most qualified over any other candidate that could come up. I think she would be a great president, and I would like to see her become president. But in 2028, we've got to win. We've got to win. And whatever it takes to win, we've got to do that. And I'm just not as confident in the dumb fucks in this country being worried that she's a woman or that she's black or something. I just want to win so then we can kind of straighten things out and get back on track. Because if we don't win in 2028, we're even more fucked than we are now, and that's hard to imagine.
Well, and I hate to say it, but it pains me to say that this next election, it's got to be a white man. It pains me to say that, but the misogyny and the sexism and the racism got proven in this last election. It sucks that it's like that. And I thought that we were, as a country, better than that, but it just seems like we're not. And I'm really disappointed with that. But I think that's what it needs to be to prevent further disaster for now. You know what I mean? It's
absolutely.
more precautionary more than anything else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to wrap up go ahead, Eric.
Well, I was going to say, I agree with you too about we need to win, and we need to run whoever is going to win, regardless.
Right.
Like, we need to give ourselves the best chance. We need to get people motivated. And I think crashing the economy like it is, like if it gets as bad as it could get and as it's looking like it's gonna get, that if it stays that bad, is gonna be a big motivator. And it may not matter who we win or who we run on the left side. They may just say, fuck it. And you see a second Reagan term level victory of 48, 49 states. It'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a legitimate.
We have to win.
That's a legitimate point. I agree with Eric on that. That if it gets to the point where we're in a recession or a depression, even at that point, it may not matter that as much as if it's the Trump fucks aren't feeling the pain.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you both for taking the time to do this. I know people like the multi-guest thing, and I know TJ was begging me to get him on with Eric.
Bullshit. That's bullshit.
I said, all right, bitch, you are a moderator. You help me out. I'll make this happen.
I just suggested that it might be a good idea.
I just, I negotiated with Eric, and he's a tough negotiator. But he said, all right, fuck it, I'll do it. And we did. Yep. And I want to thank you for taking the time to do that. For all of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.